Elena moved gracefully through the quiet halls of the mansion, her hand resting protectively over her swollen belly. The soft hum of the nursery music played in the background, a melody she had chosen for the 3 tiny lives growing inside her. Every detail of the home, from the golden curtains to the fresh lilies on the dining table, once reflected the love she shared with Ethan. But lately, that warmth had faded into a chilling silence. Ethan's laughter, once a constant comfort, now echoed only through voicemail. He left early, came home late, and when he did, his eyes were on his phone more than on her. Each time she asked about his meetings, he smiled and changed the subject, assuring her everything was fine. She believed him because love made her want to. Still, the nights grew longer, lonelier. As she folded the tiny clothes she had bought for the triplets, she whispered to herself that their arrival would bring Ethan back, that their babies would fix everything. But deep down, she couldn't ignore the ache in her chest, the fear in her heart. What she didn't know was that while she dreamed of their future, Ethan was already building one with someone else. Vanessa, the woman who would soon shatter her world. The whispers had spread through the mansion like wildfire. The maids exchanged nervous glances whenever Vanessa's perfume lingered in the hallways, a sharp, expensive scent that reeked of betrayal. They pitied Elena but said nothing. After all, she was still the lady of the house, still the woman whose photographs hung proudly on the walls. Vanessa, however, made no effort to hide her cruelty. She often appeared unannounced, dressed in designer gowns, leaning against the marble counter with a glass of wine and a smirk. "How's our little queen doing?" she'd taunt the staff, rolling her eyes. "Still waddling around like a burden in silk." Ethan pretended not to notice. He was too lost in Vanessa's charm, her poison disguised as sophistication. When he announced the charity gala, an event celebrating expectant mothers, everyone assumed it was in honor of Elena. But her name never appeared on the guest list. When she confronted him, he offered a cold, dismissive smile. "You need rest, not attention," he said, walking away. That night, dressed in a soft gold gown that clung to her growing belly, Elena arrived anyway. The ballroom glittered under chandeliers, laughter echoing through the air, until she saw them. Ethan stood center stage, his arm wrapped possessively around Vanessa. Cameras flashed as they smiled together, a perfect, poisonous picture. The room blurred around Elena, her breath catching as humiliation and heartbreak crushed her from within. The man she loved had made her invisible. Elena's legs trembled as she tried to take another step forward, the glittering ballroom spinning around her. Her hands clutched her belly, feeling the frantic flutter of 3 tiny hearts within, and a surge of panic gripped her. The emotional strain, the humiliation, and the exhaustion of carrying triplets had begun to take a toll her body could no longer ignore. Flashes from cameras lit up the room, capturing every moment, every gaze of shock from the high society crowd. Then, without warning, her knees buckled. The world seemed to slow as she sank to the marble floor, her gown spreading around her like a tragic halo. A sharp, hot pain shot through her abdomen, staining the golden fabric with vivid red. Gasps erupted from the crowd, women covering their mouths, men frozen in disbelief. But in that moment, Ethan's face was a mask of indecision. His mind torn between genuine fear and the panic that this scandal would destroy his carefully curated image. Vanessa, standing close by, leaned in and whispered with cruel satisfaction, "She's just being dramatic. Maybe she'll learn to sit down next time." Elena's vision blurred, but she could feel the tiny limbs struggling inside her, fighting against the inevitable. Her world narrowed to that singular battle, the life of her unborn children. Every instinct screamed survival, yet her body wavered. Amidst the chaos, the truth of Ethan and Vanessa's betrayal was now inseparable from the very real danger threatening to tear her and her triplets from this world forever. Paramedics swarmed the ballroom, their voices urgent, as they lifted Elena onto a stretcher. Her fingers twitched weakly, her eyes half closed, yet the life inside her fought relentlessly. Ethan trailed behind, his face pale but his steps calculated. He didn't cry, didn't hold her hand. Instead, He gripped Vanessa's slender fingers tightly, the diamond bracelet on her wrist catching the flashing lights like a sinister signal. The crowd was dispersed, whispers of shock and horror lingering, but Ethan's mind was already elsewhere, detached from the gravity of what was unfolding. Within the pristine, cold walls of the hospital's private wing, Elena was whisked into surgery. The rhythmic beeping of monitors echoed through sterile hallways, each tone a heartbeat, a warning. Ethan leaned against the marble counter, his eyes scanning the room with detached confidence, while Vanessa's manicured hand rested in his. Then, without hesitation, he produced a small black velvet box. With a calm, rehearsed smile, he opened it to reveal a sparkling diamond ring, the ultimate symbol of their illicit triumph. Vanessa's lips curled into a triumphant smirk. "She won't make it," she whispered, her voice a poisonous lullaby. "Let's make it official." Ethan slid the ring onto her finger with precision, ignoring the faint, distant monitor sounds from the adjacent operating room. For a fleeting moment, the screen flatlined, a cold reminder of the life teetering on the edge just beyond the sterile walls. Yet he didn't flinch, didn't hesitate. Cameras and hospital security quietly recorded the entire scene, a chilling testament to his betrayal, captured in pristine, damning clarity. The low hum of city traffic was suddenly drowned out by the roar of black luxury SUVs screeching to a halt outside the hospital entrance. Security doors swung open as Alexander Hayes, tall and imposing, stepped out with an aura of absolute authority. Every step he took echoed power and precision, a man used to commanding empires without ever raising his voice. His tailored suit, immaculate and sharp, reflected the quiet dominance that had built a fortune far beyond Ethan's reach. Hospital staff froze in place, whispers of awe and fear rippling through the corridors as they watched him stride past. Without preamble, Alexander's eyes, sharp and icy, scanned the room until they landed on Ethan and Vanessa. His voice cut through the tense air like steel, calm yet terrifying. "Where is my daughter?" The words carried weight, not just authority, but the unspoken promise of retribution. Vanessa's smile faltered for the first time, the arrogance that had carried her through so many social circles crumbling under the force of his gaze. Ethan shifted nervously, trying to hide the ring he had just placed on Vanessa's finger, but Alexander's eyes never wavered. When his gaze finally landed on the sparkling diamond clasped tightly around Vanessa's hand, his expression darkened. A storm brewed behind his cold, calculating eyes, a tempest that promised ruin. Every inch of his presence radiated the power to dismantle lives, and Ethan and Vanessa suddenly realized that the world they thought they controlled was now under the judgment of a man whose patience ran only as deep as his wrath was long. Alexander didn't waste a moment. With a wave of his hand, he summoned the hospital's security chief, his tone sharp and commanding. "I want every camera from the past week," he said, eyes narrowing. The staff scrambled, knowing better than to delay. Within minutes, screens flickered to life, revealing scenes that made Ethan's confident facade crumble. There he was, laughing and whispering with Vanessa in private hallways, their hands entwined in secret. Vanessa's sharp tongue and cruel smirks were captured in crystal clarity as she mocked Elena's condition, her voice dripping with disdain. And then the most damning footage appeared. Ethan, kneeling before Vanessa in the sterile glow of the hospital wing, sliding a sparkling diamond onto her finger while Elena's monitors beeped erratically nearby, the triplets' tiny hearts fighting for life. The room fell into stunned silence, the gravity of their betrayal visible on every screen. Reporters, already gathered outside, caught glimpses of the footage through security leaks, and within hours the media erupted. Headlines screamed of betrayal, cruelty, and scandal, sparking outrage across social networks. Vanessa's confident smile faded as security guards approached, their grip firm, escorting her away with a final glance at the cameras that had captured her arrogance. Ethan, pale and sweating, stumbled forward, words fumbling from his mouth. "It's not what it looks like," he pleaded, desperation raw in his voice. But Alexander remained still, silent, and immovable. His quiet presence, cold and unyielding, carried more power than any shout or threat. Ethan's excuses dissolved under the weight of his father-in-law's deadly calm, leaving him exposed, powerless, and utterly defeated. Elena's eyelids fluttered open, the sterile white of the hospital room blinding her for a moment. The rhythmic beeping of monitors filled the silence, a reassuring cadence that told her she was still here, still fighting. Her body ached, weakness crawling through her every limb, but her mind clung fiercely to consciousness. As her vision cleared, she saw a familiar silhouette sitting beside her bed. Alexander, her father, his large hand gently holding hers. His presence was steady, grounding, a shield against the chaos of the past days. "You're safe now," he said softly, his voice carrying a calm authority that seemed to push away all fear. Tears welled in Elena's eyes, not just for the agony she had endured, but for the relief and love that surrounded her now. Through sobs, Alexander explained everything: Ethan's treachery, Vanessa's downfall, the security footage that had exposed them, and the public outrage that had followed. Elena listened, the weight of betrayal and humiliation mixing with the immense relief that she and her children had survived. Her gaze shifted to the incubators at the side of the room. Inside, her triplets moved weakly but surely, tiny fists waving and breaths steadying. Each movement was a victory, a testament to their resilience and will to live. Elena swallowed her pain and made a silent vow. She would never shed another tear for Ethan, never let his betrayal dominate her life. Her heart, though battered, had room only for survival, love, and the fierce protection of her children, a new beginning forged from heartbreak and strength. Alexander's fury was quiet but unstoppable. With a single call to his network of powerful allies, he set a chain reaction in motion that would erase Ethan's carefully built empire. Banks froze accounts, investors withdrew their capital, and high-profile deals collapsed under the weight of scandal. Within days, the man who had once flaunted wealth and influence found his empire crumbling, foundations shaken by the very deceit he had relied upon. Every office, every property, every contract that had once symbolized power became a reminder of his recklessness. His betrayal exposed to the world. Vanessa fared no better. The media, hungry for scandal, painted her as the face of cruelty and ambition. Luxury brands swiftly severed ties, socialites distanced themselves, and friends who had once smiled beside her vanished without explanation. Her glamorous life unraveled in public, each headline a dagger of humiliation. She had thought herself untouchable, but the truth had a way of toppling the arrogant. Meanwhile, Alexander focused on rebuilding Elena's world. Arrangements were quietly made for her transfer to a secluded, luxurious estate, far from the chaos and cameras. Here she could heal, surrounded by love, trust, and safety, a sanctuary that mirrored the life she deserved. Every detail, from the care of her triplets to the serenity of the gardens, was meticulously planned to shield her from betrayal and fear. As Alexander watched his daughter settle into her new haven, he allowed himself a rare moment of satisfaction, knowing justice had been served and a foundation of peace was finally restored. The sun poured golden light across the sprawling garden as Elena sat on a wrought iron bench, cradling her 3 tiny babies. Each soft coo and gentle movement reminded her of the miracle of survival, of resilience that no betrayal could extinguish. Her hair glimmered in the sunlight, her eyes reflecting a newfound strength born of suffering and triumph. Beside her, Alexander stood tall, pride and relief etched into his features, watching his daughter bloom into a woman who had faced unimaginable pain and emerged unbroken. Elena's journey had not ended with survival. It had begun anew. She poured her energy into creating a foundation for single mothers abandoned during pregnancy, ensuring that no woman would ever feel as powerless as she once had. Donations and support flooded in, her story resonating with millions worldwide. Letters poured from women sharing their struggles, their gratitude, and their own triumphs. Elena read each one, channeling her pain into purpose, her heartbreak transformed into hope and empowerment for others. Months later, she appeared on a nationally televised talk show. Cameras captured her serene confidence, the subtle glow of a woman who had reclaimed her life. When asked what had sustained her, she smiled softly and said, "I lost everything that wasn't real and found what truly was." The audience erupted in applause, moved by her candor, courage, and resilience. Elena's voice, once trembling under betrayal and grief, now carried strength, inspiring viewers to believe in their own power to rise above pain and claim the life they deserved. Ethan wandered through the ruins of his life, each step echoing in empty halls that once symbolized wealth and power. The luxury cars, the sprawling offices, the high-rise penthouses, all gone, seized or abandoned, leaving only memories of arrogance and betrayal. Once admired and envied, he now faced the hollow reality of isolation. Calls went unanswered, doors remained closed, and friends who had once surrounded him vanished like shadows at dusk. Every morning reminded him of the empire he had built and lost, all for the fleeting thrill of deceit. Vanessa fared no better. Desperate to reclaim even a shred of relevance, she sold her story to tabloids, painting herself as a misunderstood victim of love and circumstance. But the world had moved on. Her fame crumbled under the weight of public disdain. Editors rejected her pleas for attention, social media mocked her attempts at glamour, and invitations to the elite circles she once flaunted evaporated. Her beauty and charm, once tools of manipulation, now seemed hollow, leaving only embarrassment and regret. Meanwhile, in the serenity of her private estate, Elena watched her grand gardens glow under the soft morning sun. Alexander stood beside her, a silent guardian and proud father. "You were born to rise, not to beg," he reminded her gently, his voice carrying the weight of experience and love. Elena's lips curved into a serene smile as she held her triplets close, feeling the warmth of survival and the strength of family. The camera pulls back, revealing the estate in its full glory, a symbol of triumph over betrayal. A woman once shattered now reigns, a quiet beacon of justice, resilience, and motherhood.